So this summer we've been doing a series at Christ Church called Christ Church StoryCorps, where we've been interviewing people about their calls in life. And this morning I'm happy to invite Bola Lawrence forward. We're going to have a little conversation. I just realized you're walking without a cane or crutches or anything. Yay! For those of you who don't know, Bola had a fall earlier this year and has had a very long recovery. So this is very exciting.
Indeed. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Bola, Frederick Buechner has said that the place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Where does your deep gladness meet the world's deep hunger? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what your call is as well.
Right. So I work as an attorney, and I work on mergers and acquisitions, etc. So clearly not a space where there's a lot of hunger. But my calling has been in work on race relations, race reconciliation. And about 3 years ago, we started up something called Strong Kids Against Racism, and that started from this church. And I am also a member of the Summit Interfaith Council, which is a group of all the various houses of worship in town. And I sit on the Committee on Race Relations for that council.
Wonderful. So where do you see connections between your faith or your spirituality and this call?
Before I moved to Christ Church, I went to churches where emphasis was placed on the judgment of God, almost Old Testament God, and the things you shouldn't do. But I came to this church, and I came to the realization that the church the people are the church of God, and we would say the Lord's Prayer, and we would say, "Thy will be done on earth." And when I came to this church, it occurred to me that that line means us, the church. We're responsible for doing God's will on earth. It wouldn't magically be done by angels, but it was my responsibility. And recognizing the segregation of the races and the impact that's had on the younger generation has galvanized me to want to make sure that there's a bridge between the races.
I can see your passion for this work, and I'm glad that you're talking about your call as outside of your job, because for many of us that's the case. For some of us, we're blessed to be able to work in the field where our call is, but for others, your call can be something that God is asking you to do that's outside of getting a paycheck.
Absolutely. I love what I do as a corporate attorney. I enjoy it. I've done it for more than 20 years, but it's not my passion. It's not what makes me wake up excited in the mornings or what galvanizes or keeps me up at night. It is how do I help the next generation when they see injustice, when they see racial divide, how do I help them figure it out? We don't have civil rights marches like we had in the 60s, but that's not to say the work doesn't continue. I live in a very privileged community, in a very privileged bubble, but that's not to say there aren't occasions where racial tensions bubble up. And how do we then teach our next generation how to approach that with love, and to give them the tools to be able to build bridges.
Can you give us an example, a story maybe where your call, where you felt most alive during this work that you do?
Absolutely. So I think about 3-4 years ago, my daughter went to I have a daughter who's going into college now, and she says she's a feminist with a to-do list. So she's very into social justice. She went to New York City for the climate march, and she came back excited, talking about the camaraderie and the fellowship she felt there. And then maybe about 6 months later, she wanted to go into New York City for a march when the whole Eric Garner, etc., bubbled up. And my immediate reaction to her was, oh, no, you shouldn't go. And then I had to look into myself and wonder why that was my first reaction to that. And I called Caroline, and I said to her, "Oh, Caroline, what do I do?" And she said, "Well, we will." She counseled. I went with my daughter to the march, and then we came back, and we organized an interfaith vigil on the Summit Green. And Caroline said, "Well, if it's only the 3 of us that show up, I will go with you with our candles." And that vigil turned out to have more than 200 people, and we just all gathered in the spirit of reconciliation. We were all hurting together. We all came together as a community, and that really changed my life. It was one of those life-altering moments for me.
And you've kind of answered this last question, but how has your call helped you to grow and change personally? I guess also, I'm also curious about how it's changed your faith, if at all.
Indeed. So growing up, anger wasn't something that we really displayed in my home. If you were angry, it was because you weren't really controlling your emotions. But I've worked with the younger teens and young adults, and I see their passion, I see their anger at injustice, and they've taught me what righteous anger means. So I always come to the example of when Christ walked into the temple, and he saw the traders' tables, and in righteous anger, he overturned those tables. So I think for me, using my righteous anger to overturn whatever injustice, whatever racial tensions I can. And also when I am asking people to let go of their biases and their racial prejudices, am I meeting them with just anger, or what am I asking them to replace it with? Am I meeting them with love and asking them, here, let go of this hatred that's killing you, that's a cancer, and am I offering them something else? Am I offering them love, or am I offering them anger in instead?
Thank you, Bola. Thank you not only for this conversation, but for the work that you do in this community. You are a true leader in race relations in this town. And for those of you who don't know, she was given an award. She and Caroline were both given awards by the town for their work in this area with young people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for the